So I decided let's do this live. I am going to rank the Souls games. The Soulsborne Sekiro games, or Sekiro-born Souls games, okay? Now, before I continue, I know people might say Code Vein, Salt and Sanctuary, stuff like that. I'm just doing the FromSoft games. So, and unfortunately, Code Vein is not FromSoft, so, for From Software, you know? All right, so here we go. Okay, so we're going to start off. And this is the best to me as far as you saw the mock station. Good for you. Anywho, so these are the best Souls games, and the choices are Bloodborne, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, Dark Souls 1, Demon Souls, Sekiro. All right? So, anywho, all right. Now, this is going to be my honest opinion. Okay? This is from also my personal experience. This is from all that. And I have been playing these games from the get-go, which is Demon Souls, since 2009. I have been with this franchise since 2009, from the very beginning with Demon Souls. So I have a lot of history. I have played every single one of these, and I want it to be known before I say anything. This is just my opinion. And also, I absolutely love this game. All right? That being said, what do I think? I'm going to tell you right now. What do I think is the very best? We're going to start from the top and we're going to go to the bottom. What do I think is the very best Souls game from beginning to end, from the boss fights, from the amount of BS that it had? Because let's be honest, every single damn one of these has BS in it, okay? From things that are broken, from things that are balanced, from everything else, because this is the hardest one. This is the hardest one to pick. But if I had to pick for myself personally, which one of these did I not only believe was the better designed, from gameplay to atmosphere to music to everything else that makes and composes that, of which is, I did a wrong sentence there, but you get what I'm getting at. I am not sorry. I'm not sorry. And I am not just saying that because Demon Souls Remake is coming out. This is the only one of the Souls games that I have not only replayed the most, it is the one that I have the most fun in. None of these games except one other one, none of these other games except maybe one of them, like I said, match this game in atmosphere, match this in replayability, match this in just overall general fun. This game right here, Demon Souls, to me, personally, your opinion may differ, but to me, none of these other games have yet to top what Demon Souls set out to do. I will also say that out of all of these games, Demon Souls is the hardest. And that's not a bad thing, because yes, it is an older game, and it does have its jank, and it does have some things that will definitely need rebalancing in the remake. But it is difficult because I feel, because as the series has gone on, I feel some of that difficulty was curved back as time went by. Demon Souls, to this day, I feel out of all of these games, is the one that pulls its punches the least. The atmosphere is breathtaking. The music is so good. The weapon choices are great. And also, out of all of these, Demon Souls feels like the purest RPG out of all of these. And most of that being the variety of magic and faith and miracles and stuff like that, but also the variety of weapons and also armor sets and armor pieces that actually have effects to them. Whereas as time has gone by, that has not been the case. Most of that has been diluted or rolled back heavily, to where mostly it's just Fashion Souls. And there's nothing wrong with Fashion Souls. But out of all of these, this is the purest as far as RPGs and being an RPG is concerned. So Again, that's not just because the remake's coming out, but that is how I genuinely feel. And like I said, at the end of it all, to this day, Demon Souls, out of all the Soulsborne Sekiro games, this is still the one that I enjoy the most. Now, with that being said, Bloodborne is amazing. I may not praise it as often as I should, and I had to kind of feel differently when it came to certain things from Bloodborne until it finally, I just realized one day, Bloodborne is not meant to be played like your typical Souls game because it is designed entirely different. It is a lot more fast-paced. It is more offensive-oriented. It's not sword and board knights and stuff like that. But also, like I said, Bloodborne, there was one other game that I felt, in my opinion, matched Demon Souls in atmosphere, and it was Bloodborne. Bloodborne, to this day, I love how different it is. It's not knights and dragons and stuff like that. I love the Victorian-era Gothic atmosphere and story that it tells. I love that it's not sword and board, it's gun and weapon, you know? I love that instead of, you know, knights and wizards and sorcery and, you know, stuff like that, it deals with, you know, werewolves and H.P. Lovecraft style of, you know, monsters and creatures and stuff like that, you know, very Lovecraftian type of things. And it is very different from the rest of it. And like I said, like, even Miyazaki has said that this is, like, the best thing they ever made. And it's hard to compete with that. The only reason I didn't rate it above Demon Souls is because I just haven't played it as much as Demon Souls. Bloodborne, mwah! I love it. It is amazing. Now, as far as the next one is concerned, it's this one. It's also amazing. Dark Souls 1. What Demon Souls started, and yes, Demon Souls did become a critical hit. However, Dark Souls did change everything when it came to video games. Demon Souls was the puddle, or the ripple, I should say. It was the ripple in the puddle that became a wave. The wave was Dark Souls, and I would be remiss if I didn't give Dark Souls that proper credit. It absolutely deserves every bit of damn credit that it has ever been given. It absolutely does. I rate it below Demon Souls because as much as I love Dark Souls and as often, as many times as I have played through it, Demon Souls still leaves a greater effect on me. Not saying that there's anything bad about Dark Souls besides the obvious Soulsborne Sekiro jank that it has, you know. Dark Souls 1 is a legendary game with memorable fights. Ornstein, Smaug, Gwyn, Artorias. Great storytelling. Wonderful music. It still retains that RPG element that Demon Souls had. Demon Souls still has it a little bit better than Dark Souls, in my opinion. But no, Dark Souls, still an amazing legendary game. Now, I am going to go ahead and I am going to just say this. I am just going to go ahead and say this. Dark Souls 3 is also amazing. I love it for the same reasons that I loved Dark Souls 1, although they did speed it up with combat, taking a lot of inspiration from Bloodborne because obviously this came out after Bloodborne. I loved the nostalgia trips that DS3 took, and there was, in my opinion, the fan service was great. I would rate Dark Souls 1 a lot higher than Dark Souls 3, just because I feel like Dark Souls 3 did maybe lean a little too much on the fan service, and while I did enjoy the fan service, it was good the first time, and then it's kind of like, the more you look into it, it was kind of like, oh, there's a lot of fan service in this game, and it kind of felt like that, like, there was originality, but there was way more nostalgia and fan service than there was originality, So, and that's a good thing, and that's also a not so good thing. So, and I feel like part of that might have been like Miyazaki probably felt like, Dark Souls 2, was such a hit and miss with so many people, and so he kind of felt like maybe he had to redeem the series. I don't know, but the weapon arts were okay. The weapon arts were a nice addition. It kind of felt like, they were just like they were trying to do something similar to Bloodborne, but Bloodborne did it so much better. However, the PvP in Dark Souls 3 is great. The boss fights are absolutely memorable. The DLC is really good with the Ringed City and the Painted World of Ariandel. Like, That stuff is absolutely wonderful. Dark Eater Midir, the Soul of Cinder, the Dancer, Lothric, the Four Lords of Cinder. All of those fights are amazing. The atmosphere is very good, although I do feel Dark Souls 1 and Bloodborne still kind of beats it in that area a little bit. And the replay value of Dark Souls 3 is very good. So, Dark Souls 3, and it was a very cool way to kind of end the Dark Souls trilogy. It was that. So, our Dark Souls 3, still an amazing game, and I still play it to this day. So, for that, I have to say it's still an amazing game. Now, I am going to go ahead and move out of the amazing tier, and I am just going to go ahead and be perfectly honest with you as far as great as games are concerned. As far as great games are concerned, Dark Souls 2 is a great game. It's a great game. It's not a very good Souls game, but it is a great game, and fun can be had in Dark Souls 2. There was a lot of really neat ideas that I personally felt never got fully utilized or envisioned or brought to life, you know? There was a lot of ambition with this game, and a lot of that has to do with the fact with, you know, how it was so different from Dark Souls 1 was because it was made by a different developmental team. You know, this was not Miyazaki's baby like Dark Souls 1 was. And that was a good thing, and it was also a bad thing because it was so different from Dark Souls 1. Yes, it has its problems, from the slow as hell Estus drinking to the 4-directional movement. They, for some reason, got rid of the 360-degree movement. Scholar of the First Sin did not make a whole lot of people happy. The fact that some of the game's punishment was... It's not that so much it was difficulty for the sake of learning to overcome your objective and learning to get better. It was just difficult for the sake of being difficult, and that it was just... It wasn't the fun kind of difficulty of, oh, thank God, you know, oh, man, whoo, that feels good beating that objective. Man, I feel great. I feel like I triumphed something. It was more like, oh, thank God that's over. Oh, I never want to do that again, you know, and I felt that so many times in this game. And you don't really, in a game like this that has a new game plus especially, you really want to cut back on making the player feel, you know, oh, thank God, I never want to do that again, because that's not good. You know, I can honestly say Demon Souls, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 1, and Dark Souls 3, I never said this. I never said this in any of these games. I always said, oh, man, that feels good. You know, like, oh, I'm the man, you know, or something like that. But I never once said, oh, my God, I never want to do that again, you know. And, you know, but Dark Souls 2 did have those moments, you know. Now, I will say this. Running at 60 frames per second was really nice at the time. Some of its backgrounds and atmospheres were very beautiful. When this game wants to be beautiful, it can be absolutely beautiful. I do love the introduction of the power stance. You know, that's unfortunately something we never saw come back again. I thought the power stance was very unique. I thought it kind of retained some of the RPG elements, but this is kind of where some of that started to go away. But at the end of the day, fun can still be had in Dark Souls 2. You can still find some kind of fun in Dark Souls 2. Like, you really can, you know. So it's not a bad game. It's just not a very good Souls game, you know. But it is a great game, and I still find myself going back and playing it from time to time. Now, this one might be a little controversial. And I am not saying any of these are bad, but Sekiro absolutely deserved Game of the Year. For its ambition, for its atmosphere, for its combat, for all of that. It deserved every bit of praise that it got. That being said, this was the one that I find myself going back to the least. Like, it was good, but it didn't leave like this huge mark on me, or didn't resonate with me as much as the others did. And that had nothing to do with the fact that it was such, you know what, I'm gonna break that up. Part of it did have to do with so much of it being such a departure from the rest of the series. because it obviously did have its Souls-like, you know, style of things like dying and retracing your steps and stuff like that. Yes, it had all of that. And it had, like I said, very fluid combat, although it could be tricky to get down at times, you know, with, you know, wearing your opponent down and stuff like that. It did have, you know, some really cool elements to it. I think the things that really, in my opinion, hurt this game were, one, the replay value was you know? And I found myself going, oh, thank God, I never want to do that again. Like the Madam Butterfly fight, when I finished that, I went, I never want to do that again. That was a pain in the ass, you know? I felt that the lack of customization was, as far as like building a character was concerned, it was nowhere near what its predecessors had done. Like in Demon Souls, there's so much freedom. In Dark Souls 1, there's so much freedom. In DS3, there's even more freedom. Even Dark Souls 2 and Bloodborne still had a massive amount of freedom. I felt like in Sekiro, I was very contained. And in a game series like this from the From Software games, you know, feeling constricted in your choices, like, you know, there's risk and reward, but it just kind of felt like, it kind of felt very bare bones to me. And that's not to say that, you know, that all of it was bad. Like stuff like, you know, having different ninja weapons and stuff like that for, you know, his prosthetic arm, or, you know, being able to learn different techniques for takedowns and stuff like that with the harpoon and everything. Like that kind of stuff was cool, but it still at the end did feel very bare bones. And I will say this, and some people may not agree with this. Some people are like, you know, like, oh, not everything is multiplayer. I honestly felt a lack of a multiplayer actually kind of hindered this game for me a lot, you know? Because all of these had fantastic co-op and multiplayer and PvP, and I kind of missed that when it came to this game. And I thought, man, dude, this game would have an absolute, like, it could be fun doing PvP or something like that in this game, or maybe co-op, you know? And I kind of missed that, you know, element being in a game that is that was created by From Software, from Software, you know. And that's not saying that, oh, you know, single player games are bad, you know, not at all, you know, not at all, you know, not at all, you know. Single player games are some of the greatest games ever made. I don't know, I felt that there was a lot lacking from Sekiro, and it just, like I said, it just didn't leave as good a mark on me as the rest did. But like I said, combat, amazing. Atmosphere, really good. Music, incredible. You know, the stealth elements, you know, that were very obviously inspired from Tenchu. Great. Wonderful. I wish more of those shinobi style of things that Tenchu had maybe made its way into this game, and they didn't, you know. And so, I don't know, I felt that more could have been done with Sekiro, but that does not in any possible fashion, way, or form make this a terrible game, because it is not, because none of these games are terrible. None of these games are terrible. They're all wonderful. You notice I listed no bad or horrible, because From Software does not make bad or horrible games. And there you go. So that's kind of my list of where I rate, for me personally, the Soulsborne Sekiro games. So if you have a different list, you know, if you feel different, please, by all means, share in the comments and, you know, tell me why. Because otherwise, you know, whatever, man. You know, we all feel differently about this games, but we can all agree these are wonderful games. Even if you feel different about Dark Souls 2. So, there it is. Yeah. I don't feel bad about this list. Demon Souls is my number one.